po si Tatay Doring, dati kong tribal chieftain, nakatira ng sitio Kalakosan. Kasalukuyan po ngayon nagbabantay sa aming mga kagubatan dahil nandiyan po nanggagaling yung aming pangkabuhayan. At kami naman po ngayon kasalukuyan naman po namin kami mga katutubong Batak, nakatira sa mga kagubatan. Yung kaugali namin po ay hindi kami permanente, hindi palipat-lipat. At yan po kami gumaganap sa aming mga kagubatan, nagre-ritual. Yan po namin ginaganap ang aming mga kasayahan, kagubatan, gaya ng yung paglalambay. Isa lang po sa amin na ginaganap namin yung pagre-ritual. At sa simple, ganun din po siya mga almasiga na bago po kami mangungulikta ng mga almasiga, may ginagawa rin po kami pagre-ritual bilang paggalang sa mga diwata na kasi ang mga lugar na tinutubuan ng almasiga, hindi natin alam na mayroon palang mga diwata. Kaya yun po ay bali sinasagdaan namin yung mga puno ng almasiga para lang po makulikta namin yung mga
My name is Jezebel Garibay and I work for Center for Sustainability. We're an environmental non-government organization based in Palawan, Philippines. Our mission is to contribute to a sustainable development in the province by implementing key projects that are related to livelihood, conservation, and education. Our work comes from communities and to communities, incorporating local knowledge and making that as a backbone for our projects. We're currently working in Cleopatra's Needle. It's one of the oldest and most pristine forests in the province of Palawan, the last frontier of the Philippines. Aside from its beauty, aside from its richness, it's also home to the indigenous community of the Batak people. Our organization has learned a lot from them, from their experiences safeguarding this forest since time immemorial. And so with that, we really want to bring in projects that are respectful not only of the environment, but also of the tradition and the rituals that are woven into the forest of Cleopatra's Needle.
Well, I've been looking forward to this event. We've been visiting with rangers all over the world, and it's really a pleasure to be joined by some rangers in the Philippines. So amazing work being done in the country to protect those wild places, and it really is awesome to have some rangers joining us. So we're really lucky to have Robert joining us. Robert's from Center for Sustainability, PH, in the Philippines. And Robert, I'd love if you introduce yourself for us. We'd love to get to know you a little bit before we get started.
Okay, so hello. So my name is Robert Arangurin. So I'm a staff of Center for Sustainability and serve as senior field officer. So I started working in Center for Sustainability for like back in 2016, and I'm working with our ranger. So yes.
All right, excellent. And Robert is going to do the translation for us, which is epic. Thank you so much for that, Robert. And we're so lucky to have two rangers joining us today. We've got Jeffrey and Noel joining us today. And we're going to dive a little bit into, their career as a ranger and learn a little bit about them. So I think maybe the easiest place to start, Robert, is, I'd love to get to know a little bit about both Noel and Jeffrey. So maybe they can introduce themselves and just tell us, a little bit about themselves.
Okay, so pakilala niyo yung sarili niyo tapos sabihin niyo kung ano yung kunting lang para sa inyo, para kung sino kayo ganun. So sino mauna? Okay, so Jeffrey gonna go first.
My name is Jeffrey Gregorio. I'm Barangay Bindoyan, Puerto Princesa City. Wildlife Enforcement, Sitio Mandaragat Ono.
So I think he's speaking English. So like his name is Jeffrey and he's from Barangay Binduyan. It's one of the lowland community of the Cleopatra's Needle that we're protecting.
Ako po si Noel Bungar, galing Barangay Consumption, Wildlife Enforcement ng Pulipatra.
So his name is Noel Bungar. He's from Sitio Tagnaya, one of the indigenous community of the Cleopatra's Needle critical habitat.
All right. Well, again, an absolute pleasure to meet you both, and thank you so much for joining us today. I think, I'd love to maybe learn a little bit more about the area where you live, the area that you're protecting. Can you tell me a little bit about the area that you're protecting, the wild place?
So gusto niyang malaman yung magkwento lang kayo kung saan yung kwento niya yung lugar, gusto niyang malaman yung mga lugar na pinanggalingan niya. For example, ikaw sa Sitio Tagnaya, ikaw sa Binduyan, so ikwento niyo lang kung ano yung mukha ng mga lugar ninyo. So sino mauna? Okay na, sige.
Ang narating sa lugar namin yung Pulipatra mismo. Maganda yung lugar ng Pulipatra. Medyo...
Lang. So yung kwento mo yung sa Sitio Tagnaya, yung tinitirhan mo.
Ako galing barangay ako, Sitio Tagnaya. Yung lugar ng barangay Tagnaya ay medyo sa bundok. Liblib na bundok. Pero maganda kasi yung kakahuyan doon medyo malalaki. Yung sariwa yung hangin. Maraming mga hayop.
So he said that he's from Sitio Tagnaya. It's one of the community in the one of the indigenous community in Cleopatra's Needle. He said that this area still have a lot of big trees, fresh air, and like a lot of wild animals.
All right, beautiful. So let's talk a little bit about being a ranger. What it's like to be a ranger. So I'm curious to know from each of you, Noel and Jeffrey, how long have you been a ranger? And what made you decide to become a ranger?
So gaano daw kayo katagal bilang wildlife enforcement volunteer? And bakit kayo nagdesisyon na maging webs? Gaano nakatagal?
Translate mo lang.
Sige, gaano nakatagal?
Mga 4 years. 4 years. Saka yung gusto namin, talagang malaman ba yung kung anong mga klase mga hayop, kung anong meron sa bundok. Kasi hindi namin alam na iba-iba pala yung mga hayop sa bundok. Kaya kumbaga sa amin experience, matutunan namin kung ano yung mga iba pang mga species ng mga hayop.
So he said like they start, so that training, like he's been in a ranger for 4 years. 4 years, and then he decided to join the ranger because he said that he wanted to, because he doesn't have an idea how many wildlife animals are there in Cleopatra's, and now they know it and they wanted to protect it. Maybe may sagot.
Ang gusto namin nagpasok sa Forest Ranger para mapangalagaan yung mga hayop sa Pulipatra para hindi mawala to hanggang sa mga susunod na henerasyon. Nandyan pa rin yung mga ibon, mga hayop sa kagubatan para makikita pa ng mga susunod sa amin pa.
So he decided to join the ranger because he wanted to protect also the wildlife animals, the forest, for the future generation of his children.
All right, excellent. Very good reasons for becoming a ranger. I think it would be interesting to learn a little bit about what a typical day might look like. I know you probably do a lot of different things on different days, but what kind of things do you find yourself doing as a ranger?
So gusto niyang malaman kung paano, kunyari nag-aakyat kayo ng bundok, di ba? So paano yun yung typical na araw ng pag-aakyat niyo ng bundok? Kunyari mag-aakyat kayo ng 3 days, di ba? So simula kayo ng Lunes. Paano kung paano kayo magsimula ng umaga hanggang gabi, ganun, kwento niyo lang kung paano yung simula nun.
Ang simula namin umaga, maghanap ng mga iba't ibang klase ng ibon, kung anong mga pangalan nito, kung saan makikita siya, kung saan ang pwede niyang tirahan. Ganun din yung mga paggabi, yung sa gabing mga ibon, kung anong klaseng ibon yung lumalabas sa gabi, tapos kung ano ring klase, anong mga pangalan nito.
So they started the day like early in the morning to go in the forest, in the mountain, and then they find a lot of animals, especially birds, and then listing the names, where they can find it, what food they eat, and then the same as the night goes, they go also at night, then recording any, especially wildlife that they can find in the area that they don't usually see in the lowland area, and then put it in the record and send it to the CS to for us to send it to the partner government agencies. Pares lang din ba sa'yo yung ganun?
Iba rin.
Sige. Paano yung sa'yo?
Yung sa amin, ano, halimbawa, mga o hapon, pagkatapos gabi, hanapin yung mga tirahan ng mga hayop, yung habitat. Okay.
So for Jeffrey on his area, they usually start at afternoon up to the night, just to find like for the example, like the animals that only show at night, so find their habitat, and then as the same with Noel, report it to us in CS, and then for us to report it to the government partner agencies.
All right, very cool. Well, it sounds like you get to spend a lot of time outside and seeing lots of different types of animals, different animal species. So I'm curious to hear from both of you, Noel and Jeffrey. Do you have a favorite animal or a favorite favorite animal you really like to see when you're out in the wild?
Kung meron daw ba kayong paboritong hayop na gustong makita sa bundok na nakikita nyo at bakit? Sige, ano yan?
Ang paborito kong hayop yung ano.
Bakit?
Paraka, saka ahas.
Bakit?
Kasi ang gusto ko malaman doon, yung mga kung anong klase ba siya, kung makamandag, kung hindi, kung ito yung, di ba yung ibang hayop, kinakain ng mga tao. Yun ang gusto ko malaman, na ito parang hype na ito, napapakinabangan bago yung ito hindi pwede.
So he said that he really likes snakes and frog. And why? It's because he wanted to learn a lot about this kind of animals. And because like here in Palawan, particularly in the Batak, like in the indigenous area, there's a lot of animals that they eat. So for him to help them to know what kind of animals the people can eat and what are dangerous for them.
Sa akin naman, yung paborito ko yung Palawan Pickup Pisan kasi iba't ibang kulay nito yung balahibo, maganda yung kulay, makita, at saka siya ang logo ng Puerto Princesa City.
So he said Palawan Peasant Peacock because it's really beautiful and it can only be found here in Palawan, and there's a lot in their area, and he said that it's also the logo of our city, the Puerto Princesa City.
All right, very cool. Well, I have some homework now. I'm going to look up and find a picture of that because I want to see one now. Very cool. So I know, being a ranger, it's not an easy job. Long hours, hard places to get to. So I'd like to hear, from each of you what one of the biggest challenges is to doing your work.
So, sabi niya na hindi madali maging forest ranger. Gusto niya lang malaman kung ano yung pinaka challenging na parte ng pagiging forest ranger. Yung pinakamahirap, yung nagiging challenge sa inyo.
Yung pinakamahirap na challenge na naranasan namin, siyempre pag tag-ulan, siyempre mababasa kami, baha, hindi makatawid sa ilog, pero pinipilit na magtawid para ako ng mga roving, para makita yung mga halamang lupa.
He said that the rainy season, because like here in the Philippines, like rain for almost all the year, so it's hard for them, especially when the water in the river get high. It's hard for them to go, especially when they are in the middle of the forest and they need to go back to the community. They can't cross the river because it's really high. So that's one of their biggest problem. But they just doing it for the sake of protecting the forest, the wildlife over there. Ikaw, anong challenges? Yung pinakamahirap? Like, delikado ba or ganun?
Yung pinakamahirap pag halimbawa grabing ano yung yun ganun umulan magbaha hindi ka akyat ng maganda sa sa bundok hindi mo kuwan talaga yung halimbawa
Hindi ba delikado sa mga illegalist, mga ganun?
delikado yung mga ganun
Kapag naka-encounter kayo?
pag naka-encounter ng mga maraming mga panganib sa bundok.
So he said that like also the same with Noel, but he added that like if they encountered some poacher, illegal loggers, it's hard for them, especially for like the indigenous people like them. They kind of scared for them for their life, I guess, for being there and then like encounter this kind of people.
Yeah, and you know, an encounter like that, you know, what do you do in that situation? Do you try to talk to them, maybe educate them a little bit? What would you do in a situation like that?
So, halimbawa, naka-encounter kayo ng mga illegalista, yung mga poacher, ano yung ginagawa nyo? Kinakausap nyo ba sila ng maganda? Binibigyan nyo ba sila ng mga natutunan nyo sa, like yung mga educational na natutunan nyo, yung mga batas-batas, gano'n?
Kinakausap ng maganda na wag nang kuhain yung mga ibon kasi pag naubos yan, wala nang makikita na yung mga nakatira dyan na mauubos. Kaya wag na silang magkuha ng mga ibon o kahoy man para hindi maubos yung mga sa kagubatan, mga ibon o kahoy man makumubos.
So he said that they talk them nicely and like educate them by saying that they should not do the illegal activity because it might get lost, like, or get extinct, like all the animals in the forest if they continue doing it. Sa'yo.
Sa akin, kuwan ko yung mga tao na wag na masyado magputol ng kahoy kasi yun, sinasabihan ko rin na na bawal. Yun ang pinakamaraming encounter ko doon. Pero din talaga. Yun ang isa.
So he encountered a lot of illegal loggers and he just saying to them that stop doing what they're doing because of like what's gonna happen with the forest if they continue doing illegal loggings.
Yeah, and then maybe reporting some of that activity as well, I imagine.
Yeah, so like what they're doing is, especially when they do like they encounter this kind of activities, it's either they go and report to the barangays, like in their community, or put a record on us, give the record on us, and then we're gonna send it to the like Department of Environment and Natural Resources that are partners also, like government agencies here in Palawan.
Okay. So, you know, we've heard it's a challenging job reaching some of the remote places, long hours, getting up early, staying out late. I'm wondering if each of you can share a time, a story or a time where you felt really proud of the work that you do. You know, something that made you really excited to keep doing what you do.
So alam niya na mahirap yung trabaho, na hirap pumunta sa yung mga matataas talaga, yung mga magubat. So gusto niya lang malaman yung pinaka-proudest pa, na yung pinaka-proud kayo sa nagawa niyo at yung dahilan na bakit kayo nagtuloy pa din maging wildlife enforcement volunteer kahit mahirap, pero yung pinaka-proudest na moment niyo, yung pinakasabi niyo na proud talaga kayo na nagawa niyo yan.
Ito kasi yung sa amin. Habang nandito pa kami, yun, kagaya sinabi ka ni Gabi, pagdating ng sunod na henerasyon, may makikita pa yung mga na mga tao. Yun ang pinaka-proud namin kumbaga may nagawa.
Okay. So he said that like the experience that he did, like protecting their area is the proudest time of him as a forest ranger, and he keep looking forward to doing it. Like continue doing as a forest ranger.
Sa akin, proud ako sa police ranger kasi mismo kami ang nagpangalaga ng mga hayop, mga wildlife sa kagubatan dito sa Puerto Princesa para hindi maubos.
So what for him is he's really proud of himself as a indigenous people, as indigenous person because he's indigenous. So he's proud of himself that even though he's indigenous, he can do like protecting his own forest, his own area for the future generations.
Yeah, that's great. And, you know, I'm glad you brought up the future generations because I think it's so important that kids learn about protecting the environment and what happens if we don't. So I wonder if Noel and Jeffrey find themselves as being educators in the community and teaching some of the younger people in the community about protecting the forest.
Sa pakiramdam niyo ba nagiging ano kayo, parang teacher kayo na natuturuan niyo yung mga komunidad ninyo tungkol sa pangangalaga ng kagubatan, ng mga wildlife?
Okay, sir. Ay, kasi na-experience ko sa sarili ko. Pag kailangan mo ang isang tao na sabihan na ganito, kumbaga, naniniwala sila, nakokontrol. Hindi rin sabi na kuwan talaga lahat. Pero kung ano, parang rinirespeto ka rin ng tao.
So they said yes, and Jeffrey said that like he feel that every time he tell or teach something that he learned before as a forest ranger to his fellow community, they listen and they respect him as a forest ranger.
Ako, parang teacher din ako kasi tinuturuan ko sila kung anong pangalan ng hayop na yan, kung ba yan, dayo ba yan dito, kung dito talaga siya nakatira, kung saan yung tinitirahan niya.
So yes, he said that he feel as an educator because every time there's like an animals that new to them and he find it, for him, he distinguish these animals like unlike the other people like in the community that doesn't know the name, and he can identify if it's native or non-native in the area.
All right, very cool. You know, it's been a rough year for rangers all around the world with COVID-19, and I'm wondering how, you know, the last year and a half has maybe changed their job in any way.
So, mahirap daw yung isang taon at kalahati na nakaraan dahil sa COVID-19. So, ano yung mga pagbabago nung bago nagkaroon ng COVID-19 at nung may COVID-19 na, ano yung pagbabago sa mga trabaho ninyo bilang forest ranger?
Yung mga pagbabago, siyempre ilang buwan na hindi naka-akit ng bundok, hindi na panulit kung ano yung nabago, kung ano yung nadagdag, kung ano yung nabawas. Yun, parang gano'n.
So he said that because of the COVID-19, their activity in the area, like patrolling, are limited because I think for us in the CS, the budget for their salary, so they don't know what's happening in the area. If it's like there's a new, there's changes in the wildlife or like in there's a forest fire or anything, they don't know what's happened because of the COVID. So,
sa akin naman, bago kasi madalang na maka-arobe kasi kulang na sa budget. Walang pang-protection sa mga ulan dahil sa pandemya.
Yeah, same with Noel. Because of the COVID-19, like the patrolling are limited because of the budget that we can, like the CS can give for them. So that's what he said.
Yeah, it sounds like there's going to be a lot to do, a lot to get out and see what's changed and what, you know, what's happened during this time. So definitely sounds like there's gonna be a lot of catch-up work to do in the future. Yeah. And so the last thing I kind of want to think about before we wrap up for today is, you know, Cleopatra's Needle. I've seen pictures and presentations and it looks just amazing, just a stunningly beautiful place. Is tourism, you know, before COVID, was tourism popular in the area?
Bago ba nagkaroon ng COVID, maraming turistang pumapasok sa Cleopatra.
Marami.
Yes, there's a lot of tourists.
Yeah. Is that starting to increase again?
Nagasimula na ba siyang magpasok ulit yung mga turista? Not yet. because like there's still a lot of people that not get vaccinated here in the Philippines. So gathering with a lot of people are still not allowed.
All right. Well, before we wrap up, I think, there's a lot of people who are going to be watching this video live or watching it later, and they've never been to the Philippines before. So I wonder if Noel and Jeffrey, if there's something they'd like to share with us to, someone who's never been before, something about the Philippines.
So marami pa mga nanonood na tao na hindi nakapunta dito sa Pilipinas. So may gusto ba kayong sabihin sa kanila na patungkol sa Pilipinas, kung gaano ito kaganda, ganon?
Gusto kong sabihin, maganda yung Pilipinas, presko yung hangin na kakahuyan at saka malis yung tubig.
I just wanted to say that Philippines is really beautiful. The water, the forest are really nice. Ikaw.
Yun, kung dito sa Puerto Princesa City, maganda. Maganda yung mga bundok, maganda yung mga tanawin, maraming mga puno, pagkatapos marami kang makita ng mga iba-ibang klase mga hayop. Bukod doon yung mga nature ng gubat.
So particularly here in Puerto Princesa, the scenery, the forests are really beautiful. There's a lot of animals that you can see, and yes.
All right. Well, I want to start off first, Robert, a huge thank you to you. Thank you so much for organizing this today. And thank you so much for the translation. And then to Noel and Jeffrey, thank you so much for the work that you do. And thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your story with us.
Thank you, Dawson.
Thank you.
So they said also, thank you for you.
All right. Well, I hope you have a great weekend. And I look forward to getting some updates about how things are going in the future, and hopefully some good news when you're able to get out there more and see more of the protected area.
Yeah, so looking forward daw siya sa mga update para sa mga mga susunod na mga darating na mga araw. So yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.